If we look at the current medical landscape, it is not an exaggeration to state that the modern lifestyle has engineered a physiological crisis for the human body. We have effectively transformed ourselves into sedentary organisms. Statistics indicate that the average adult now spends between 8 to 12 hours a day in a static, seated position, hunched over workstations, staring at smartphones, or navigating traffic. From a biological standpoint, our musculoskeletal system was simply not evolved to endure this degree of immobility. The consequences are mechanical and severe. Over time, sarcomeres, the functional units of your muscles, physically shorten, joint capsules thicken and lose lubrication, and the spine's natural curvature begins to deviate. It is clinically unsurprising that low back pain has emerged as the leading cause of disability globally, impacting over 80% of the adult population. The stiffness you feel in your cervical spine, the tension in your trapezius, and the aching in your knees are not necessarily inevitable symptoms of aging. They are often direct, pathological results of biomechanical neglect. Today, we are going to address this with a precise protocol of 7 therapeutic movements. If executed daily, these can arrest and even reverse the degradation caused by sedentary habits. Before we proceed to the protocol, I would like to ask a small favor. Please take a moment to leave a comment below stating your name and the city or country you are tuning in from. It is genuinely encouraging for us as medical professionals to see a global community of seniors taking proactive agency over their health. If you find this information valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on evidence-based health strategies. To begin rehabilitating the spine, we must first address the rigidity of the vertebral column itself. We start with a movement known in yoga as the cat-cow pose, but medically, we view this as a controlled spinal flexion and extension exercise. This movement is critical because it targets the paraspinal muscles running longitudinally along the vertebrae. When you sit for prolonged periods, the spine is often locked in a static position, causing the synovial fluid, which lubricates our joints, to become stagnant. By moving through flexion and extension, we create a pumping mechanism that nourishes the intervertebral discs and improves proprioception. The key here is not speed, but segmentation. You want to try and move one vertebra at a time. When you inhale and drop into the extension or cow position, avoid collapsing the lower back if you have facet joint arthritis. Instead, focus on extending the thoracic spine. Conversely, when arching into the cat position, engage the deep abdominal wall to support the lumbar region. This rhythmic motion has been shown to reduce pain intensity significantly by reducing muscle guarding and improving neural mobility. Once the spine is mobilized, we must look at the foundation, the hips. Prolonged sitting places the hips in a constant state of flexion, shortening the hip flexors and tightening the adductor muscles of the inner thigh. To counter this, we utilize the butterfly stretch. This is not merely about flexibility. It is about resetting the position of the femoral head within the hip socket. Tight adductors can pull the pelvis into an anterior tilt, which subsequently forces the lower back to overarch, leading to chronic lumbar pain. By sitting with an upright spine and allowing gravity to gently open the hips, we release tension in the groin and the pelvic floor. It is imperative, however, that you do not force the knees down with your hands. The hip joint is a ball-and-socket mechanism that relies on gradual adaptation, not force. If your hips are extremely tight, or if you cannot maintain a neutral spine, sit against a wall. This ensures that the stretch remains focused on the adductors and internal rotators rather than creating compensatory strain in the lower back ligaments. As we continue to move down the chain of recovery, we need to address the compression that gravity and sitting place on the spinal column throughout the day. One of the most effective therapeutic positions for this is child's pose. From a physiological perspective, this position offers a gentle form of spinal traction. Our intervertebral discs are avascular, meaning they have poor blood supply and rely on a process called imbibition, absorbing nutrients like a sponge, which only happens when pressure is released. By folding the body forward and allowing the chest to rest on the thighs, we open up the posterior aspect of the vertebrae, reducing intradiscal pressure and allowing the paraspinal muscles to completely disengage. This is often why patients report immediate relief. We are mechanically unloading the structures that support our weight all day. For older adults, however, knee flexion can be a limiting factor. If you have osteoarthritis in the knees, placing a cushion between your calves and hamstrings acts as a fulcrum to reduce joint compression while still allowing for that essential lumbar elongation. Closely related to lumbar health is the condition of the gluteal muscles, specifically a small but troublesome muscle known as the piriformis. This leads us to our next critical movement, the piriformis stretch. This muscle is anatomically significant because it sits directly over, and in some people runs through, the sciatic nerve. When we sit for hours, the glutes become inactive and weak, while the piriformis often becomes tight and spasmodic to compensate. This tightness can compress the sciatic nerve, causing radiating pain down the leg, a condition often mistaken for a slipped disc. By lying on your back and crossing one ankle over the opposite knee in a figure 4 configuration, we isolate this deep rotator. Gently pulling the thigh toward the chest stretches the piriformis, releasing the entrapment of the nerve. It is crucial here to keep the sacrum, the triangular bone at the base of the spine, flat on the floor. If you curl your tailbone up, you lose the leverage required to stretch the muscle effectively. This movement is non-negotiable for anyone with a history of sciatica or lower back tightness. We then transition to a more complex movement that integrates the entire posterior chain, the downward-facing dog. While often seen in yoga studios, medically, this is an inversion therapy that stretches the calves, hamstrings, and lats simultaneously. The posterior chain is a system of fascia and muscle running from the bottom of the feet up to the base of the skull. Tightness anywhere in this chain, particularly in the hamstrings, will pull on the pelvic tuberosities, tucking the pelvis under and flattening the lower back, which is a recipe for injury. This pose helps restore the length of these tissues. However, for the senior population, we must approach this with caution regarding blood pressure and ocular pressure. If a full inversion causes dizziness, modifying this by placing your hands on a wall or a sturdy chair provides the same hamstring and spinal elongation benefits without the rush of blood to the head. The goal is to create a straight line from wrists to hips, prioritizing spinal neutrality over straight legs. Building upon the elongation of the posterior chain, we must address the rotational capacity of the spine. The thoracic spine, or the mid-back, is designed to rotate, whereas the lumbar spine is designed for stability. Unfortunately, sedentary habits often stiffen the mid-back, forcing the lower back to twist excessively to compensate, which leads to injury. To correct this, we utilize the supine spinal twist, lying on your back and allowing the knees to fall to one side, while keeping the opposite shoulder grounded creates a torque that mobilizes the thoracic cage and stretches the oblique abdominal muscles. This movement also aids in wringing out the internal organs, stimulating digestion, but structurally, its primary value is restoring independent movement between the rib cage and the pelvis. A crucial point of failure I see in patients is the lifting of the shoulder. If the shoulder leaves the ground, you have lost the anchor point for the stretch. It is better to place a pillow under your knees to reduce the range of motion than to compromise the isolation of the spinal rotation. This decompression can actually increase the intervertebral space, offering significant relief for compressive issues. Finally, we must address the upper cross syndrome, the rounded shoulders and forward head posture that define the modern computer body. The antidote to this is the doorway chest stretch. When we slouch, the pectoral muscles and the anterior deltoids shorten, pulling the humerus forward and internally rotating the shoulders. This not only looks like poor posture, but also restricts lung capacity and strains the rotator cuff. By using a door frame to stabilize the arms and stepping through, we mechanically force the pectorals to lengthen and the scapula to retract. This is essential for resetting the shoulder girdle. Clinically, I advise patients to be very careful not to jut their head forward as they step through. The cervical spine should remain retracted, ears over shoulders. This stretch does more than look good. By opening the chest, we reduce the tension on the neck muscles that cause tension headaches. In conclusion, these 7 movements are not random exercises. They are a systematic approach to undoing the specific biomechanical damage caused by modern living. Consistency is the primary variable for success here. We are not looking for high intensity. We are looking for daily maintenance to signal to your body that it is safe to release tension and restore range of motion. Treating your body with this level of respect is the most potent medicine you can administer for longevity and quality of life.